So, hi, welcome? Okay, I'm not really good at introductions. Anyways, I don't want this to drag for too long, but the first half of Season 9 of Death Battle is done, with the bonus episode, Excalibur vs. Raiden, coming right after. And an episode I'm not sure has been fully revealed to the public yet as writing this script, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. But anyways, Death Battle is my favorite show. I've watched it since I was a kid and it helped introduce me to Versus and its community. I love being a part of it and think every episode has an event. I know I sound like a total nerd saying that, but this is where my passion lies. I can't deny that. But what do I think of the season so far? Well, spoiler alert, I love it. This season had so many highs and barely any lows. I know we're only in the first half, but if this keeps up, this will easily become my favorite season of the show. And with me becoming more and more involved with the community, beginning to make my own fan-made scripts, and meeting some amazing friends online who share my interest, I've never been more proud to be a fan of the show. But anyways, with all that out of the way, let's get into my thoughts on each episode and rank them accordingly. This season was so close in the rankings that it ultimately came down to personal enjoyment over actual criticisms. I swapped around the rankings of 7 through 2 so much that it's not even funny. And since I haven't made individual reviews for each, I will be going pretty in-depth for each episode. Now, I highly suggest you watch each episode before watching this, as 1, the creators deserve all the support they can get, and 2, there will be spoilers for the winners and what happens in the animations. And don't forget, these are my opinions. Everyone is entitled to their own, especially for a show like this. And one more thing, I'm still trying to find my own style writing these types of videos, so if I sound similar to anyone, that is completely unintentional. Okay, finally, with all that out of the way, let's get to it. Also, a slight side note, I know I sound like a 12-year-old, just don't make fun of me for it. I get self-conscious about my voice, okay, thank you.
Amateur.
Now, just because this episode is at the bottom doesn't mean it's bad. I actually quite liked it, and the matchup was really exciting. It's just that in terms of enjoyment, this one just does the least for me. I found the analyses good, if a bit stale and boring. Bubba's kind of felt soulless, and Predator's was just all over the place, and felt really short. None of the jokes really stuck out as funny, especially Wiz trying to pronounce Yautja 4 times. That just seemed like overkill. That is pretty much all I have to say about the analyses. On to the fight. I like the setup of Boba Fett landing on Pred's hunting grounds with Predator watching above. And the sequence where Boba Fett finds the bodies of Predator's prey is a scene I do enjoy. After Predator tries to get the jump on Boba, which fails by the way, we get a neat trait of how they can't underestimate the other, and then an alright melee sequence. There is a bit of jank with that kick and things just kind of look awkward, like the Predator's roll. Things just kind of feel slow here. After Boba gets slammed into a tree when Predator short-circuits his jetpack, a scene which I unironically kind of found funny, we get a melee sequence which I actually found way better. Everything flows more fluidly and feels a lot faster, and Predator and Boba get to use a lot more equipment, although said equipment just appears out of nowhere. Like, where was Boba hiding that pipe? Actually, never mind, I don't want to know. After Predator throws his frisbees of doom, we get an amazing sequence of Predator using Boba's voice line from earlier in the fight, followed by an amazing shot of Boba Fett getting his arm cut off. I adore the use of the silhouettes. They really sell the impact. And by the way, I originally thought they were just reusing voice lines for Fett, until I got told the actual happenings. I honestly thought that was kind of clever. Predator claims Fett's arm as a trophy and then stabs a tree which he thought Fett was hiding behind, not knowing that he was on the branch above. You know, that sounds like a really stupid mistake for Predator to make, especially for an elder of a race that has natural infrared vision. I mean, sure, it's cool to see Boba Fett's trickery, but it just doesn't really make sense. Then we get an explosion from one of Fett's bombs, which somehow has more impact than his rocket, and, spoilers, the upcoming self-destruct blast. I do like the change in scenery, and Fett literally cauterizing his wound with a lightsaber is the most badass thing to happen in the entire fight. We then get the reveal of the Megamind looking ass real face of Predator, followed by a, let's just say, controversial line. I did want to see the line in the fight, but hearing it just kinda sounds wrong. Like Biff and Nim mentioned, something like, I've seen worse, would have fit much better coming out of Boba. It just doesn't really fit. Somehow Predator yet again pulls a weapon out of their ass, and then we get an okay duel. Like, I really just can't say much about it other than that. Predator knocks down Boba right in front of him, followed by him hesitating when he finds out he can't see Boba due to the nearby fire messing with his infrared vision. I'm not gonna lie, I really like this part. It's kind of intense and really creative. I just have one gripe with it. Why did Predator stop swinging his scythe when he knocked down Boba in front of him? Sure, he can't see him, but odds are if he swung, he would have hit him. Maybe if Predator kicked him from behind and then turned around, it would have made more sense. And even then, the lightsaber was already shown in the previous shot to be harder than fire, meaning it should have stuck out like a sore thumb. Fett then gets the jump on Predator once, and then that is when Predator decides to kill himself. Boba didn't even hit him with his lightsaber, and Predator has been bodying him the whole fight. This is just Grey vs. S death all over again. Boba retrieves his arm back from Predator in a shot that really sells he's the better hunter, and with Predator's bored-looking face, the self-destruct happens, and Fett walks away, limping and victorious. Now, in the post-analysis, they say that Fett couldn't survive in the epicenter of the explosion, so why do they show him doing just that? A scene where Fett starts running away is all they needed. Now, my final nitpick is that Predator has a massive identity crisis here. Nemesis went more into this, but the Predator here has so many traits of so many different Predators, from looking like a jungle hunter, to having more advanced equipment than one, to wielding elder weapons, to acting like a newbie. Predator just kind of seems dumb in this episode. From the tree scene to not swinging his scythe immediately, to going for self-destruct after his scythe breaks. I don't know, man. This episode just doesn't do it for me. Though I did still enjoy it, especially with the background music. If It Bleeds, though kind of a dumb name, is an excellent track. It feels very Predator-esque in its more intense moments, while very Star Wars-y in its climatic moments. Don't have much to say about the post-analysis besides the fact that it does go over the self-destruct pretty well. With all the nitpicks, I still like this episode. But it just does the least for me right now, so it's going at the bottom of the list. I was actually kind of surprised this one turned out so well. Marvel vs. DC fights on average are usually, well, average. And with this fight having so much potential that was never going to get fully realized, I wasn't expecting much from this. But color me surprised. Scarlet Witch vs. ZATANNA turned out great. The team went with what time constraints and budgetary issues they had and made full use of it. The analyses are really fun and enjoyable. I like how they talk about their full extent of power and their personalities rather than just list a bunch of things they can do. I enjoyed these analyses way more than I thought I would. Now, the fight starts with ZATANNA pulling Wanda out of a hat by accident. I don't know how in character it is for Wanda to just immediately insult someone after teleporting somewhere, but I do know that ZATANNA would definitely be insulted as her magic skills are very important to her. So, it does make sense that she would retaliate, but with no violent means. It's actually Wanda that pulls out the first attack with ZATANNA just ensnaring her in chains. Kinda sells their dynamic a bit there. I don't know why it is, but ZATANNA saying "become rabbits" in reverse is kind of funny to me. That didn't have anything to do with the review, I just wanted to mention it. We get an unnecessarily satisfying punch from a summoned Superman on Wanda. Like, the sound design and impact is just right for the single hit. We get the closest thing we're probably ever going to get to Avengers vs. Justice League. I like the scene, but it just kind of feels bare bones. I would have at least liked to see Superman's heat vision. Wanda then gets a genuinely chilling voice line, talking about how much power she is, with ZATANNA keeping her cool and talking about how the difference between them is presentation, which is definitely a Megamind reference and you cannot tell me otherwise. I like the scene where ZATANNA literally reaches outside the borders of the episode and causes it to glitch out, followed by the absolutely gorgeous shot of ZATANNA falling and landing in a space full of universes. Wanda literally crushes one just for show as ZATANNA juggles them and throws them at Wanda, which is hilarious and honestly kind of a spectacle. Wanda then goes full rage mode after getting hit in the face 4 times. Now, I do kind of feel like the pacing of that is kind of a little off, seeing as how she was just fine before that, but I can't really complain when the yell and line after are so absolutely stellar and must have completely destroyed the actress's throat. We then get a cool fake out in the part where every Wanda hater rejoiced. I really like Wanda's look of fear as the "no more witches" line happens. And I'm a big fan of the death. I'm glad they didn't just go for vanilla existence erasure or anything. I like that it takes Zatanna being a magician into it, with a magic box and saw, coupled with a great death scream from Cassandra as Scarlet Witch. If I want to act spoiled, I kind of wish it was more trippy and reality warping based, like maybe having the KO screen crush Wanda after she thinks she won. But I still really like what they went with here. If I could have a few complaints, I find it odd that Zatanna would just end the show by throwing Wanda's corpse on stage. I mean, people still cheer, but that was a pretty risky move, not gonna lie, Wiz. Also, a bit off topic, but why would people be cheering when Zatanna said the show was over when it lasted 3 minutes and the audience didn't even see half of it? Just something I thought of. The pacing can feel a little off at points, and the fight felt like it could have used a bit of a longer runtime. Also, while I like the voice acting for Wanda, sometimes it just feels off. Now, Zatanna's voice acting, that's a whole different story. This episode already made me a fan of Zatanna, but Lauren Mayfield sells Zatanna as having the most fun she's had in a while, which is a really nice dynamic with Wanda's more unstable, raging powerhouse personality. Also, I really like that their personalities are in their color schemes as well. Wanda's attacks pull out harsh reds and smoke and streams of clouds, while Zatanna has popping blues with fireworks and spectacles. Zatanna is such a lovable goofball in this episode, and I'm so glad she won. And that's partly because I don't really like Scarlet Witch, which is mostly the MCU's fault. Now the track, Spellaholic Synonymous, while a wasted opportunity to not have it spelled backwards and far from my favorite of the season in terms of music, is still really atmospheric and catchy at points. It perfectly fits the fight. So, overall, I do really enjoy this episode. It's just that I liked all the other episodes a bit more. Still, it's a worthwhile watch and I highly recommend it.
No fear, only fire!
Okay, so first off, Princess of Pride is such a banger. Please, for the love of God, give it a listen. Okay, but now getting into the episode. Thor vs. Vegeta was a match I was hyped for. Not for the matchup, but for the episode. I love Thor from the comics and MCU, and he was definitely deserving of a comeback that wasn't Thor vs. Wonder Woman. And while I haven't watched Dragon Ball, I still do enjoy Vegeta. But given how good Dragon Ball episodes are on the show, Goku vs. Superman, Beerus vs. Galaxia, Goku Black vs. Reverse Flash, and even Hercule vs. Dan, I was obviously excited for this fight. And what do you know? It delivered good. The analyses are enjoyable and extensive. They go over both characters well and have a few good jokes. Nothing stands out though. Though they somehow made Boomstick worthy of Mjolnir, which makes him multiversal without slapstick. Good for them. The fight begins on yet another gorgeous background. They said it was their biggest one yet, nearly crashing the computers they made it. Props to them. Thor is seen lifting the whole 60-ton tree off the ground before being interrupted by Vegeta. The voice acting is stellar. Nick Landis reprising his role as Vegeta sounds exactly like the character, but Jonah Scott reprised as Thor makes me even happier. Thor in his last episode was just a slightly tamer Hulk. Here he sounds like his more charming, if not a little arrogant self, and that is exactly what I wanted out of his character. The actual fight starts out kinda slow, things just feel like they're a drag, except for the Ki Blast bit, that was actually pretty good. Thor brings out his axe, no I'm not going to pronounce the name, and has another bit of a stiff bit. We then get the only Hakai bit with Vegeta using it on the axe. Kinda wish he used it on Thor, only for Thor just to power through it, shocking the ever-living hell out of Veggie, but what can you do? Though that leads into another problem with the episode. Vegeta barely uses any transformations. I don't know the names of all the Super Saiyans, so I'm just going to call this the blue one. But I hear this form is one of the later ones, and people don't really like the pacing of the transformations given there are only 2 of the, 10 different forms used in the fight. It personally doesn't bother me, but I do wish we could have seen more. We get a good combo with Vegeta hitting Thor in the air and then using the Big Bang attack with a delivery I'm not too keen on, honestly. It might just be me, but Thor kind of sounds like he's drowning within the attack. Might just be me. Just something that caught my attention. That wasn't important to the review or anything, I just wanted to mention it. We get a funny scene with Vegeta catching Thor's hammer mid-air, laughing that he did, only to be sent back since he's unworthy. Kind of wish Vegeta reacted being called unworthy, but that's just something I thought would be cool. To do create a crater in the water as they test their might on each other. Vegeta now goes Ultra Ego, which brings up the pacing argument again. I don't want to delve into it anymore, so let's just move on. Vegeta's maniacal laugh is kind of cool to me for some reason, though Vegeta just standing in the exact same position for each hit with Thor's hammer only to be reacting to it in the next scene is not. They either should have had him still standing in that position, barely even phased, or had him react to the initial hits. After a few more hits from Vegeta, we get the best Thor line in the entire fight. Just the sheer coolness of the line, "No fear, only thunder," was already enough, but Jonah delivers the line so well. I love it. The two clash a few times before Thor decides to skip rocks across the lake with Vegeta, except Vegeta is the rock. The two power up for one final clash as Vegeta's voice actor gives all his might into the final flash line. It's a stellar delivery and scream. Thor saying, "Feel heaven's wrath" is not as good, but still decent. The fake out here actually kind of got me. Madara vs. Aizen did for like half a second, and Akuma vs. Shao Kahn nearly did, but the music actually fades out here. Nice job, guys. Thor simply just grabs Vegeta in the most Chadley way possible as he electrocutes his head. We then get the based reference to the second best MCU movie, Infinity War, and the death is easily one of the highlights for me this season. Instead of just vaporizing Vegeta with lightning or something, it's actually creative. Thor using Mjolnir to smash Vegeta's head from behind is something I never thought of, but I love it. Thor has to breathe after the fight, showing he did struggle, followed by an amazing victory cry as the sky rumbles and thunders for him. Man, what an amazing fight. There's a lot of noticeable problems, but the fight is so big and impactful, helped by the music, and the analyses are a massive treat with some good jokes. This deserved to be the longest episode of the first half. The post-analysis needed that extra link, something like Wally vs. Archie Sonic deserved. I know some people don't enjoy this episode as much as others, but I personally really like it. I know this is starting to seem similar to Biff Weed's ranking, but trust me, it changes at...
Afraid! He's going for my lungs!
The next one being Tanjiro vs. Jonathan Joestar. So, as you can see, this season was really hard to choose placement spots because Tanjiro vs. Jonathan is an amazing episode. There's so much to love here. But remember, this is more about personal enjoyment more than anything for me, and other episodes just strike my chords a bit more. The analyses are fantastic, if nothing special. They go over both characters well and they have some good jokes, but I'm not an anime fan, so that's probably why I don't find their analyses as enjoyable as other people do. I'm not too interested in Demon Slayer at the moment, and I keep saying I'm going to start watching JoJo, but I just never do. But I have the highest respect for the fans of the show who got exactly what they wanted out of this episode. I'll get around to the shows eventually, just not anytime soon. Jonathan is said to be out of character in the beginning of the fight, which I kind of disagree with. It's kind of hard to make a fight to the death scenario with these two, and I feel the team did the best they could. Although a bit more context would have been nice. The beginning fight is good, if a little janky. I like that both Tanjiro's kindness and Jonathan's respect is here. We then get a Chad zoom punch before continuing on with the fight. No, I'm not going to mention the controversy of the puppy line. That's a whole can of worms that I do not want to get myself into at all. The water effects look really, really cool, if a little bit stiff. Jonathan then lifts the whole 60-ton tree off the ground, and we get a neat bit where he even uses it as a weapon. I like the part where after slicing the tree, Tanjiro uses his better senses and breathing techniques to spot Jonathan. And the "you could teach me a thing or two" is definitely something Jonathan would say, even though I don't know much about him. The sun breathing effects on Tanjiro's blade are absolutely stellar. I don't know how this show does hand-drawn bits so well. I love Tanjiro's tactical planning on him finding out Jonathan has a similar ability to him and figuring out exactly what he needs to do to defeat him. With Jonathan catching on later to Tanjiro finding out, although the part where he does find out looks kind of awkward because he takes like 3 sword swings and like doesn't move a muscle. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. But it's followed by the amazing shot of the single breath after taking the Metal Silver Overdrive, followed by him busting out, breathing a single seeable breath made with anger and determination. It's just so raw. I love that part. And the scene that follows after that, with Jonathan getting stabbed by Tanjiro, with him realizing that Jonathan purposely tricked him into missing all of his organs, then followed by Jonathan electrocuting him and then using the Sunlight Yellow Overdrive to finally take the win, while Tanjiro's sword is still in his chest. Oh my gosh. All the overdrives had amazing screams, but this one easily takes the cake for the best one. Now that ending. Oh boy, that ending. Jonathan immediately cries cartoonish tears after Tanjiro, bloody and beaten, tells him that Nezuko is his sister, feeling kind of out of place. I would have preferred if Jonathan had a more "what have I done" moment instead. But then again, I don't think this is an out of character for Jonathan, or any JoJo character really. But this also just furthers the nitpick with revealing that at any point in the fight, Tanjiro just could have told Jonathan that she is his sister and all would be good. But I understand, though, it's kind of hard to make a setup where both characters are some of the most kindly that are used. So again, I think they did the best they could. And everything after that, from Jonathan promising to keep her safe, letting Tanjiro die peacefully by shutting off his heart via Haman, to the suspense of Nezuko reaching out before pulling away right before the animation closes. I mean, I don't blame her. If I just witnessed a buff, fully grown man just beat my brother to death, I don't think I would trust him either. But the ending is really suspenseful and kind of heartbreaking. And the exchange Wiz and Boomstick have after was really perfect for the characters, and a bit of comedy relief. And the post-analysis is fine. Oh, and the voice acting is stellar. Both VAs do wondrous jobs portraying their characters. So, why did I put it at number 5 despite it praising it endlessly? Well, like I said, it is about personal enjoyment, and these characters aren't really ones I'm too interested in. I love learning about them, of course, but it just wasn't series I was too into, you know? Also, Tanjiro's analysis just, ends out of nowhere. On my first viewing, I was actually kind of taken aback when it ended. But besides those very minor complaints, this episode is a fantastic one and something I definitely recommend. If I can say this much positive stuff about number 5 on an 8-episode ranking, then you better know the rest are amazing as well. I also forgot to mention the absolutely banger track that is Breathless Blades. It's a really nice sounding one that fits the fight really well. So yeah, let's just move on now, I guess.
Multiple heads. Of course.
So, this is just a little side note I wanted to add. I know this episode makes some people uncomfortable, and I completely understand. If you want to skip it, since I'll be going in depth, then skip to this part of the video. Okay? You're good? Alright. Here we go. Okay, so, first off, I can't even begin to explain the bewilderment from this episode announcement. Luis said the fight would be something no one was expecting, but I don't think a single person even fathomed the use of mythology in Death Battle. But lo and behold, here we are. It's a real episode. I don't think there could have been a better matchup to start with than with this one. Hercules and Sun Wukong are easily some of the most popular myths of all time. And the fact that this episode is probably going to teach me more about mythology than my school ever did was hilarious. And also, this is the only episode this season I got to react to with other people. I was just hanging out with one of my close buddies for the day, and when the episode came out, he agreed to watch. So, shout out for him for letting me nerd out. But that really makes me wish I could watch so many more episodes with others. It's just such a different experience reacting with other people. Well, with that out of the way, starting with the analyses, they're really good. Nothing substantial, aside from the fact that it's so surreal to hear Wiz and Boomstick talk about Greek myths and Journey to the West. Now, the fight begins with a beautiful transition with the Scroll and Muse, played by Christian Young. Makes it feel like this is a tale told through generations rather than just a regular fight. We also get a custom hand-drawn background, which I think looks amazing. It really does feel like an ancient landscape, and the golden sky just furthers the mystical proportions. The voice of Hercules, or Heracles, whatever you like, I guess, from Blythe May Lin is really solid. He has so many good moments, especially with a really good joke later on in the fight. But Sun Wukong's voice actor did a stellar job portraying the Monkey King as the lovable goofball in this animation. He has so much charm in this episode. You can tell he's having the time of his life throughout the entire fight. The setup begins with Hercules getting angry over Wukong's trickery, which I think is a pretty nice one, especially with showing Herc's original art from ancient Greece. The brushstroke from Wukong's attacks also add a bit of beauty to the animation. It's a nice touch. I like the part where Wukong creates clones while dodging Herc's arrows, and then trying to get the jump on him with his animal transformations, as Herc overpowers him and uses the Cortalis to destroy all of Wukong's clones. It's a super creative way to implement a bunch of their abilities as they counter one after another and make it feel natural. The scene with Sun Wukong laughing from the great fight as Hercules smashes his heads to bits, only for Sun to get up talking about how this is more fun than he's had in a while before going into his 3-head transformation. It really highlights their personalities, with Herc being a more serious warrior type while Sun is more of a playful trickster. Hercules acknowledging Sun's 3 heads was also a neat callback to his 12 labors, and one of my favorite jokes in the episode, along with Dummy having to hold up an infinite universe in the boomstick jump scare. And in the storyboards, they even had one of Sun's heads be Goku, and I just find that funny. The melee fight with the multi-headed Sun is pretty good, but it pales in comparison to the next shot. Hercules looking up at the staff as it grows and crushes him, with Sun laughing, only to be interrupted by Hercules lifting the whole damn thing as a nod to when he lifted the infinite celestial spear, is just so raw, and I just love it. Finally, we get to the climax where both characters' higher beings clash one final time in a very climatic and beautiful ending. The Muse is at his best here, and the way they're both holding the scroll is a really neat touch. Now the death is a bit weak. Like, I wish it involved the Ryu Jinju Bang or more. But then again, I don't really know how risky it would be to have a gory death for a character like Hercules, so I can't really blame them. Wukong literally stating exactly what happened is also kind of weird. The death would be confusing without it, but Wukong going, "Wowee, looky here, I just hit him so hard he turned into nothing," seems kind of out of place for any character to say, really. The ending is nice, with Wukong laughing as he jumps off, with the Muse giving one last line, closing this mystical battle. It's honestly a pretty well done ending aside for the death. Now, the episode does have a few nitpicks. Herc's walk cycle at the beginning looks kind of off to me. I don't know, it just does. I think his arms are a bit exaggerated. Hercules saying, "I am Hercules," near the beginning feels kind of out of place, like, bro, LMAO, who asked? I wish Wukong got to use his animal abilities more. Just 2 transformations really didn't do it justice. Like, maybe they could have had Wukong turn into a heavy animal, which Hercules lifts. So it just keeps turning into heavier animals, and Hercules keeps lifting each one. I cannot for the life of me tell what is going on in this frame. I've stared at it for a solid 5 minutes and still haven't figured it out. Now, a final complaint is that I wish the Muse said the Monkey King emerged victorious after Wukong won, or at least made it more vague until the actual killing blow was performed. But those complaints are very minor, and I mean very minor. There were so many aspects of this fight that I love, and the music really fits the fight well. Hero's Journey by Theirwolf is an amazing fit to the fight and encompasses the feel of each moment in the fight, from the heroic feel of Herc lifting the staff to the ominous and mystical feeling of the God Clash. I'm also proud of myself because I correctly predicted the track name beforehand, yay me. I'm so glad that an episode as unique as this turned out so well. This opens the floodgates for even more Mythos matches like Anubis vs Hades, Zeus vs Odin, and Cthulhu vs Godzilla. Hell, it even allows for folklore and urban legends like the original Dracula and even Santa Claus. And Death Battle already confirmed they will not use religious characters, which thank God they did. We do not need religion on Death Battle. At all. I don't really know what else to say besides Greek mythology is weird as fuck. In order to be a good season premiere, you need to have a matchup that pulls in loads of viewers and be able to get everyone hyped for the rest of the season. In my opinion, Harley Quinn vs. Jinx checks both of those boxes. Man, what a great start to the season. Everyone was expecting Jonathan vs. Tanjiro to be the premiere, but honestly I feel this episode fits a lot more. Harley has become one of the most prevalent DC characters in recent years, and Arcane made Jinx and League of Legends really popular in the moment. So I think they made the right choice. The episode starts off with Wiz saying, "We live in a society, and now my life is complete." The analyses are pretty good, with some stellar editing from Nick as usual. Both cover the characters really well and are pretty fun watches. We even have Harley lifting the whole 60-ton tree off the ground. The cutaway gags. Harley's kind of falls flat, and Jinx's, while better with the Ringmaster interaction, immediately goes into a kind of out of place League of Legends ad. Sure, it makes sense in the conversation, but it just felt jarring. Luckily, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's actually kind of entertaining. The fight starts in an absolutely gorgeous setting. There are so many good backgrounds in Death Battle, and this is no different. Harley attacks Jinx after she blows up her teddy bear, and that is definitely something Harley would do. The following chase sequence is very fluid and a nice watch, and also highlights Harley's better aerobics and agility. Harley gets the jump on Jinx and then materializes her hammer out of literally nowhere after throwing it away a few seconds ago, as Jinx used this teleportation device to then get one of the Drake chokes of the fight. I love the part where Jinx acts as Fishbones when Harley playing along. That's what happens in the entire fight. They just play along, which is exactly what these two would do. This episode has some of the wackiest and looniest happenings for characters that don't have Toon Force. I love how Jinx goes through the trouble of making Fishbones look sad. That's some great stuff. We get another good joke of an obvious disguise from Harley asking if Jinx has a lighter, who agrees and then lights the stick of dynamite for her, which again is something she would do. Harley sticks the dynamite in Jinx's mouth as she laughs maniacally, and the fact that Harley kicks her, shoots her, encases her with bands, and knocks her in the face so hard with her hammer that she is sent flying into a merry-go-round shows how damn committed she is to keeping that dynamite in her mouth. And I love it. The whole time on the merry-go-round is probably my favorite part of the fight, with a close second being the climax, but we'll get there. We get a pretty intense chase sequence with Harley smashing the horses to bits as Jinx hops away. We get a nice bit of comedy as we see the fight from afar. Then Jinx knocks Harley back and faces out of the bands. Harley gets to show her agility again and then fires the boxing glove. Jinx sticks the dynamite in the glove, finally giving it back to Harley before it explodes. I saw a comment on the video that said Jinx knew how long she had before it exploded due to her being a master of explosives. And yeah, I'd say that's about right. Also, Harley letting it explode and just saying, "Aw, nuts," is way more in character than freaking Spider-Gwen doing it. Jinx riding on the rocket while laughing was something that needed to happen. It's just like part of her character. We get to the roller coaster, which Harley is revealed to already be on. Some may find that as weird, but remember, these are some of the more loony or non-Toon characters. We get to see them using the teleporter to go across many dimensions, including Blake versus Mikasa. Oh my god. They then go off to the side and then stop in midair, which was a little bit too Looney Tunes, not gonna lie. It's in character for them to be laughing all the way down the fall, though. As soon as I saw the Mirror Maze sign, I knew things were about to get trippy. Harley uses the Joker Venom, which makes Jinx remember home. As she breaks the glass, she goes completely insane with spraying bullets everywhere, hallucinations of Harley running around the arena, and a phenomenal 2D effect reminiscent of Arcane. Harley's line here is amazing, and the sheer rawness of Jinx catching the hammer strike and delivering that fantastic line before turning Harley's stomach to Swiss cheese is just amazing. We then get an impactful kick back to where the fight started. Harley, in a last-ditch effort, tries to trick Jinx into getting in close so she can get her with the one last gadget, like Joker vs. Sweet Tooth. But Jinx just gives that episode the middle finger by just saying, nah, and then proceeding to blow Harley up with her rocket launcher in a firework-like explosion. Great stuff. Man, what an amazing premiere this was. So many memorable moments and jokes. I love the characterization and the action. It's all done so well. Now, the models look a bit off next to each other. Harley towers over Jinx at points. And while I love both models, Harley looks like something from a cartoon, and Jinx looks like her in-game model. It never takes away from the fight, they just don't really mesh well. But aside from that, I can't think of many other complaints. Go watch the fight at least, I'm begging you. Felt like the crew had so much fun making this. And I can't forget about the track. Mad Laugh Right is so good. The only track rivaling it right now for number 1 is Princess of Pride. This was a perfect way to start the season, and definitely prepared us for the treat we were all in for. Not quite on the level of premieres like Dante vs. Bayonetta and Yoda vs. Mickey, but it's a close call, and I'll definitely give it number 3 in terms of my favorite premieres. Now, we only have 2 episodes left. Omni-Man vs. Homelander and Magneto vs. Tetsuo. Which do I like more to put at number 1? Well...
Poor child.
If you're a fan of the show, you might have seen this coming. Magneto vs. Tetsuo was an episode I was excited for, but not one I was too hyped about. It was a stomp with yet another Marvel character. I was still excited to see what they did with the matchup, but I don't know. But as you can see, with this being at number 2, the episode definitely delivered. Magneto and Tetsuo were long overdue for an episode on the show, and I'm so glad their episode turned out so well. The preview they showed was phenomenal, and the hype just kept building. I even watched Akira in preparation for the episode. The analyses are extremely good. They go over both characters' stories and abilities well, though Magneto somehow feels shorter than Tetsuo's for some reason. The fight begins with Magneto taking Japan, which I presume is his response to finding Quicksilver's corpse there. Tetsuo barges in and attacks Magneto, and then we have a really cool and well-animated chase sequence as they fly through the city. Tetsuo knocks Maggie down and proceeds to laugh like he just stole a lollipop from a toddler, which is probably something he would do. Magneto cuts Tetsuo's arm off with something that doesn't really look like it could cut an arm off. Tetsuo crafts another arm with nearby metal as Magneto throws the whole dang building at him. Tetsuo blocks it and gets an advantage on Magneto when he targets his organs. After a few more hits, you can clearly see Tetsuo getting exhausted and fatigued, foreshadowing what's about to come. Magneto throws the same building at Tetsuo, catching him off guard. Tetsuo then performs a combo that feels like it would be more suited for a Dragon Ball character. Doesn't really seem like something Tetsuo would be able to do. We get a really cool shot of their psychic abilities affecting the whole Earth, followed by another great shot of Magneto's helmet getting knocked off. Tetsuo tries to blow up Magneto's mind as he spits out blood, which will be important later. Magneto gets the upper hand on Tetsuo as he begins to mutate. The track, Ego Death, perfectly fits the fight all the way through, and here it really captures Tetsuo's transformation. Magneto looks up at Tetsuo's mutation in pure terror, and as Tetsuo screams in pain, he talks to Magneto, confused about what he really wants. But deep down, between wanting Magneto dead, he just wants Magneto to help him. And Magneto understands. The track picks back up as we get the most creative use of Magneto's magnetism by using the iron from his own blood set up in a few shots earlier to create metal blades to slice through Tetsuo's arm and hold him back. God, that's clever. We get a great yell from Magneto's voice actor as the Big Bang thingy takes place. Magneto takes control of it, which is something they explain in the post-analysis. Magneto, after seeing what Tetsuo is going through and the pain he is enduring, instead of calling him an impudent child, now calls him a poor child. And he just wants to end his pain, put him out of his misery. Magneto slices the mutation in half with the Big Bang as Tetsuo gives one final effort to win, still confused as to what he wants. Magneto simply fires a beam at his head. No stabbing or crushing him with metal, just a quick, painless death. The only thing Tetsuo can mutter is, "Thank you," as a response to Magneto ending his pain. And the only thing Magneto can say is, "You're welcome," as he flies off. God, I was not expecting this to be an emotional roller coaster that it is. It's not on the same level as Tenjojo, but it's still a gun puncher. The voice acting definitely adds to it as well. Edward Bosco does an amazing job as the master of magnetism, and that's even more impressive when you find out his other roles include Spyro the Dragon, and Joshua Waters is also a highlight as Tetsuo. The VAs did really good this time around. Also, this is the first episode written by DJ, and as you can see, he did a fantastic job. I really hope to see more of him in the future. Oh, this episode is criminally underrated. It's definitely a highlight of this season, at least to me. And with one episode left to cover, which I'm sure you know, let's go ahead and get to it. I'm not really good at writing outros to each ranking, as you've noticed. Let's just move on now.
What's the matter? Are you going to cry?
Okay, so first off, stop saying the team was forced to do this episode. Ben said that wasn't true, and it's very apparent that this was a passion project. I don't get people who still whine about it not being Omni-Man vs. Bardock. Not only was making this episode one of the best business decisions they've ever made, the episode itself easily surpasses everything in the first half, and given the competition, that is something truly remarkable. Now, this one has really, really heavy gore. If that makes you uncomfortable, then skip here or click off. Like, I'm not kidding, the gore gets pretty intense for some people. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get to the episode. First off, everyone knew Homelander was dead the second this episode was announced. Even the team agreed it was a massive curse stomp a year before it was announced. And unlike other stomp episodes like Korra vs. Storm and Goku Black vs. Reverse Flash, I don't think Homelander had a single win con. So how did they handle this massive stomp of an episode? Well, first off, the analyses are the best of the entire season. Every joke lands and they go over their feats and stories really well. They also destroyed any hope of getting Buffy vs. Blade this season. If you're a fan of the show, you'll know why, but if you're not, then I don't really want to tell you. The preview really caught me off guard with how good it was. This is the first fully hand-drawn fight since Genos vs. War Machine, if I'm not mistaken, and it looks fantastic. I do think it's odd the fight takes place during Christmas, though. These two don't really have a connection to the holiday, and this came out exactly as planned, so it wasn't originally a season finale or even a late fall one. This came out in late May. I heard it was so blood could pop out more, but they never really take advantage of that. But I think the reasoning for it is that these are two Superman-esque characters who, instead of being heroic, are unforgiving and violent. And I think the happiness and peacefulness of Christmas makes the whole evil part of it stand out more. The episode starts off with Omni-Man coming home only to be greeted by Homelander waiting for him. Homelander gives a really good and genuinely chilling monologue. His condescending nature matched with the era music perfectly captures how scary he truly is, without the need for heavy gore too. And when they revealed Debbie's corpse during the preview in the Death Battle cast, my jaw nearly dropped. The sound it makes when it cuts to her even adds to the tension, and I love how Nolan blocked the view of her and even looked at her. Really nice attention to detail. Omni-Man gets a really badass line saying he's going to feed Homelander his own heart, which catches Homelander off guard and actually kind of scares him. But Homelander shakes it off quickly and tries to act cool, only to be immediately socked in the face. This is where the preview ended, but man, I was immediately hooked on this episode. This preview made it feel like the fight was more about worlds colliding instead of them just meeting and saying, "Who are you? Let's fight," which is always great. Nolan punches Homelander in a combo, which is kinda janky and a bit slow at points, but it's so satisfying with the sound design and Nolan chucking Homelander to a table right after that I really don't even care. Nolan says that he's not here for his country, which Biff Weed pointed out that if it was any other character, it would have had a completely different meaning. It also kind of brings in this world isn't yours to conquer, so that's kind of cool. Homelander, now pissed off, flies Nolan through a few houses and then drags him across the street. The addition of the people spectating the fight adds something. I don't know what or why, but a crowd watching the fight just kind of adds a little something to the animation, but whatever it is, I love it. After oil truck shenanigans, the two fly off and Nolan gets a really meaty hit in before showing his superior, well, everything. We get a very clever reference to the train and plane scene from both of their shows, and then Homelander gets the best of Nolan and uses his laser eyes, which Nolan catches in midair in a really cool shot. I just love the concept of this, and the execution is perfect. And the part where Omni-Man stops to teach Nolan how to fight sells the conclusion they got to, where Nolan is a warrior while Homelander is a bully. Nolan even saying Homelander's next punch was better after punching him so hard that he got a nosebleed was kind of hilarious. Homelander uses his sonic scream, which was really his only advantage, and it actually gets the best of Nolan, stopping his flight and making him stop fighting from the pain. Now, here's where the heavy gore starts. This is your final warning. Click off now or skip here if that makes you uncomfortable. The fight takes a very slight but intense breather. Homelander nearly having a temper tantrum as Omni-Man still has his cool really sells their dynamic. Homelander using the sonic screen again to best Nolan as he screams bloody murder, promising to murder literally everyone he knows, including his son. This is the point where Nolan is completely done with Homelander's shit. It reflects from the analysis that Nolan really does care for his son, as when Homelander threatens him, he retaliates by ripping his jaw off, forcefully taking his heart from his chest, and finally reminding Homelander of the promise at the beginning of the episode by shoving Homelander's heart down his throat and crushing his head, all with his eyes burnt out in front of a shocked crowd of people. Oh my god. The team was hyping this up as their most violent death battle ever, and while I do agree it was kind of overhyped, it wasn't to the level of Ruby hyping up extreme violence only for it to be someone losing an arm. And even then, the ending still made me sick to my stomach for the first few watches. The storyboards show Nolan with his think, Mark, think pose. I literally almost wrote it was me burying into the script. Whoops. And while I would have really liked to have it, I think not having it lets the ending sink in more for people instead of them just pointing out the meme. Man, I was not expecting this episode to be this much of a banger. I was excited for it, obviously, but man, it still somehow exceeded my expectations. The fight is short, and the episode itself is the shortest of the season, but with how much quality they packed in here, the episode being more character-driven, and having an incredible animation, I don't care. Everything about this episode is phenomenal. The voice acting is incredible with the goated Tom Schalk as Nolan, and Young Ye as Homelander. Young does an incredible job portraying Homelander as both a condescending threat and a petty man-child perfectly. And Diabolical Invincible Me, despite having the worst possible name for a track ever, is such a bop. I was expecting something more fast-paced and action-y, but I think I prefer this much more. Not only is it really catchy, the lyrics also sell the characters as being massive threats. Liam Swan knows how to write an episode and knows how to do it well. And that's the ranking. That took a lot longer than I thought it would. I was not expecting this video to even be over 20 minutes. Remember, this season was so good that each ranking from 7 to 2 kept flipping around. Not too long ago, Tanjiro vs. Jonathan was at number 3 and Harley vs. Jinx was at number 5. That should tell you how equal in quality all these episodes were. And yes, I know, Raiden vs. Excalibur came out not too long ago. I'm starting a review on that one as soon as this ranking comes out. But it took a while for me to actually figure out how to make this video as it's my first one. But my review for that episode will be out sometime. Right now, I'm worried about if I'm going to be cringing at a line or line delivery tomorrow if my voice is too weird. Yes, I'm nervous. How could you tell? But in all seriousness, I just want to take this moment to thank the whole cast of Death Battle for not just this amazing first half, but for the whole show. I don't know where I would be without it, and it really sparked my passion for verses, and that's something I cannot underestimate. So, thank you, Death Battle, for everything. If you made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really appreciate you sticking with it. That really means a lot to me. If you want to follow my Twitter for some reason, you can follow me in the link in the description. Well, now I don't really know what else to say. Make Destroyer versus Iris, coward.